Hi everybody, even though I posted a review of Arma Reforger about a month ago, I think it was near the end of November 2024, things have been changing so fast in the world of Reforger that I felt it's only fair to revisit the game, as, to be honest, it's all I've really been playing for the last month, and my opinions have now significantly changed. Now remember, in this video review, I'm basing what I'm thinking about Reforger based on the flagship multiplayer mode, which is Conflict, where teams fight each other over a massive map to gain control of important objectives. And when we talk about Arma Reforger, or Arma 3, or Arma 2, or any of the Arma games, the Arma Reforger bit, or the Arma 3 bit, is like the foundation engine, really, almost. I mean, the game engine's in Fusion, but Arma Reforger is kind of the basis, and then you have the other game modes that put onto it. A bit like, say, with Battlefield, you have Battlefield, and then you'll have Conquest, and then you'll have Team Deathmatch, and that sort of thing. So Conflict is the big game mode, and that's what I'm playing, and that's what I'm loving. So Reforger originally came out back in 2022, and it was and is it's a test bed for Behemoth Interactive, who are the publisher and the devs, their new game engine. And the idea, I guess, is that it's a stepping stone to the next full instalment of the series, which should be Arma 4, which is way off, apparently in 2027. Now, I don't particularly believe that. I think it's going to come sooner, but they've said it's 2027. But when it came out, Reforger was plagued with a host of issues. Now, we were all really excited because this was the first real milsim available on console, available on Xbox for a long time, and it had crossplay with PC. But the servers were really buggy, the game didn't run well, you couldn't get a connection, loads of features were missing, and it just wasn't much fun at all. In fact, playing Reforger, up until fairly recently, and especially in those early days, felt like you were paying Behemoth Interactive for the privilege of working for them as a quality assurance tester, a QA tester for their engine. And Reforger should have really been a free early access release, because then all of the poor performance, lack of features would have been understandable, and because you hadn't had to pay to play what was meant to be a game but really wasn't much fun, you'd have been, well, I didn't have to pay and I don't mind helping develop this engine and develop this game. In the years since then, the devs have steadily been adding features that we'd expect to be in the game, so a better health system, better weapons, a really good supply system now, vehicles, helicopters, and optimizing and improving the gaming experience. In fact, one of the biggest issues was the control scheme on gamepad, whether if you were playing on PC or on Xbox, was they had this non-industry standard layout of buttons that was, honestly, it was crazy. And I'm glad to say, hopefully, with the feedback I gave and some of the ideas I put forward, I might have actually been a part of helping to fix that. But now, if you're familiar with Call of Duty, you're familiar with Battlefield, you'll get on with the Reforger controls on gamepad. And on PC, they're pretty much similar to Arma 3 or Daisy anyway, so you'll be pretty cool. What's also happened is that all these kind of updates have come together and made previously what felt like a beta or a technical test now feels like a real game. So PlayStation joined the Reforger crew in December 24, and I've got to admit, I was a little bit jealous because they were coming in just as Reforger kind of would sort itself out and became the version of the game it really should have been at launch. And this massive influx of players into Reforger, which, being a massive tactical shooter, is pretty much unique to console. But what was really cool is that they were coming into this game that now worked and was fun to play. So that meant that the servers were really full, as they still are. And it meant that more people were playing on PC, more people were playing on Xbox. And all these content creators as well, who normally concentrate on Battlefield and PUBG and COD, came sucked into the game. And what was very nice as well is the videos they make, and I'm not saying there aren't some paid for videos and stuff like that, but it seems like most of the videos they make were very organic in the fact that they would come to Reforger because it was a popular game, and obviously if you're a big YouTuber or a big Twitch player and there's a game that's blowing up, you'll want a piece of that. But as soon as they played it, they liked it, and they've carried on making content about it since, which is really good. And it's fantastically engaging and fantastically fun. And I actually didn't write this down, but I was thinking about it as I was having my lunch, and the fact that it can be a really casual, nice experience outside of being a shooter. But let me explain a bit more. And before I explain why I like Reforger so much, I've got to say there's still plenty of things that need fixing and adding to the game. The most important one for PlayStation players is they haven't got mods yet, so you can only play in vanilla game modes on vanilla maps on vanilla servers. Actually, they might be able to play on community servers that don't have mods. Yeah, they'll be able to do that. And mods are a big part of Arma Reforger and its massive success, especially with content creators, because there's mods that use the servers that use the RCS status quo mod, and a few others that bring modern warfare style equipment to Arma Reforger. So Arma Reforger is actually set in the 1980s. So the Americans have got M16s, the Russians have got AK-47s. There's no night vision goggles. And it kind of it's only 20 years away from the Vietnam era, so everything's a lot more basic. Whereas with the RCS status quo and the things like the WCS guys put on, you then get red dots, you get night vision, you get modern kind of rigs for holding weapons and stuff like that. Now, don't let that put you off though if you're a PlayStation player, because most of the time I play vanilla servers anyway, and I think it's fine. I like playing with an old AK-47 and a SVD sniper rifle. I really enjoy that. The other thing is, at the moment, official servers are limited to 48 players. And when you think how absolutely huge these maps are, they are probably 5 times bigger, probably more than that, than your average Battlefield map, which is normally 64 players. Or even with Battlefield 2042, they were trying 128 players, aren't they? And I think 24 versus 24 on the big Everon map is not enough. It's not too bad on the smaller map, a smaller official map, and we'll have to see how. There's another map coming this year as well. We'll have to see how that works. But I think official servers should support at least 64, which would be the same as Battlefield. But I think maybe the 80 would be a sweet spot, because then you could have 8 teams of 5-man squads on each side of the map, sort of fighting each other. Now, you don't have to be in a squad, you can play lone wolf, but I think that would be good, because sometimes it does feel a little bit quiet when you're taking an objective and there's only one guy keeps spawning in to try and kill you. However, the other side of this though is that if you play on community servers that have got lots of players, and I think they do up to 128, there can be a lot of rubber banding when you're driving vehicles and helicopters, so that's maybe something they need to work on as well. I think 100% they need the option that you can have a player map marker to show you where you are on the map, because that isn't in the game. So when you jump in and you look at the map, you have this rather odd situation, the fact that the map gives you a rough hint of where you are. It will say, oh, you're east of military base in the north of Everon, or something like that. And it will show you the locations, the exact locations of all the other squad leaders. But it won't, it won't show you where you are. Now, the first thing when you jump on a modded server, the first mod they put on, I think it's called Where Are You? And you can see where you are. So I think if we just had a map where it didn't have any details on at all, apart from maybe the capture points, and then you had to manually go on and mark where you were, and so that's what all the squad leaders had to do, that would make sense not to show us where we are. But the fact that you can see where other squad leaders are and it gives you a hint is, come on, Bohemian Interactive, at least give us an option of having that on there. Again, don't let that put you off too much, because once you've got a dozen or so hours into the game and you've been running around, you kind of get used to navigating by looking at the map, looking at your compass, looking at landmarks around, and it is quite easy, and it's very immersive playing like that, because it forces you to learn the map as well. Because at the beginning you think, well, how can I learn this massive map? But you do, and you start to learn the tracks and the towns and the villages and the shortcuts and all that sort of stuff. I think they really need to have an option to turn off friendly fire as well. I can't think of a situation where turning friendly fire off really spoils a game. The only exception to that might be the fun that you have in something like Helldivers 2. I can't really think of a situation where having friendly fire on, although it increases immersion because you've got to be more careful about who you're shooting at, and you've got to look to see what people look like, I don't think there's a problem with having friendly fire turned off. It wouldn't bother me at all if you couldn't kill your own teammates, and it would sort out a lot of the problems, especially you get in vanilla servers in the starting bases where people are just shooting each other and throwing grenades and things like that. So it should definitely be an option, I think. Have special. They could even have something like a special beginners server where friendly fire is off, and where am I is automatically on, so people can see where they are and they can't accidentally or deliberately kill other people. You will come across bossy, sweaty players in this game as well. He'll try and tell you what to do. Now, I would always recommend that when you play, you join a squad and you get on the radio and say, what are we doing? But you will come across people who want to tell you what to do anyway. You think they know best, so be aware of that. But most people are very helpful. The inventory management system and quick slot system on console, well, on PC as well when using a gamepad, is way too clunky. It's not intuitive and it's really difficult to figure out what you're doing. They need to add an option to have the controls on the screens. Now, because this is a mil sim, there's an awful lot of things that you can do as a soldier that you can't do in other games. Such as have your weapon in the rest position. You can inspect your weapon, but while you're inspecting it, you can change all the attachments. You can dig, you can throw flares, you can have bandages, you've got tourniquets, you've got morphine, all sorts of this amazing stuff. But the UI really likes to disappear. And I think they need to have an option to keep it on the screen for beginners. Hit reg is definitely dodgy. You can unload whole clips into people and they don't die, which is a bit strange, but I guess that's to do with servers, so hopefully we'll see an improvement to that. When you're playing as the Russians, you get the Russian announcer chatting away, and you haven't got a clue what he's saying. What he's saying is, in fact, he's normally saying something like, there is a light vehicle depot now available at Point Remagen, or supplies have been delivered, because that's what the American guy says, but you don't know in Russian, you're just thinking, oh, I wonder what he's saying. I think there's an argument that they should introduce a timed game or a smaller, faster game mode that isn't just a smaller map, but maybe where the objectives are closer together and maybe it's timed for half an hour or something. And I would really like to see some sort of player stats outside of the individual game. So once you finish a game and you leave, you can look at how you did, but there's no ongoing... Not even a leaderboard, but just being able to look at your stats that would show you your KD ratio, maybe the amount of supplies you've moved, the number of troops you've moved, how many objectives you've captured, how many bases you've built, how many players you've revived, that sort of thing. Maybe. And undoubtedly these things are already coming, but boats will be good when they come, I think, and some sort of era-specific night vision system, which might just be night vision sights for rifles, but they could be quite OP when everybody else hasn't got them. So that's kind of the stuff that's missing. That's the stuff to expect for it. And I know that's a lot, but I wanted to talk about it because you have to remember that this is still a platform that is in development, and things that you would have in other games you don't necessarily have. So this is now why I am absolutely addicted to playing Conflict in Arma Reforger. The main thing is that you can choose what you want to do in the game. So the overall game mode is you're on this massive map, and a load of Russians have spawned in one part of the map, and a load of Americans have spawned in the other, and there's 20 or 30 different capture points around the map, of which 7 of them are critical, and these tend to be bases around the outside on the ports, and there's a couple inside as well. And to win, your team needs to capture 5 of 7. But you can't just go to a capture point and capture it. You need to capture the capture points in between, the little ones. And then you need to build things on these little bases that enable you to push forward. So you have to build things like armories so people can get more weapons. You need to capture vehicle depots so people can spawn in jeeps. You need to spawn in barracks so that NPCs can spawn in. And what I should say as well is all of these capture points are defended. Well, in fact, most of them are defended by NPC AIs as well. These are the third faction in the game. So you've got the Russians, the Americans, and I guess the people who live on the island, the soldiers, and you've got to get rid of them. Which means that if you want to just go and say fight AI NPCs, you by yourself or with a squad, you can go and do that. You can go kind of in the opposite direction to where your main forces are going, and work your way across the island like that, taking on NPCs, shooting them, building stuff and ranking up, because the way that it works is as you rank up, so as you do more stuff, so as you build more stuff, as you kill more people, as you transfer more supplies, as you transfer more squad mates or soldiers in general, you get a higher rank. And when you get to something like sergeant, you can then build things like living quarters, which means you can spawn in NPCs, which can then either defend these areas or come with you on missions. If you're a squad leader, you can give them orders and take them with you. And then I think you've got to get to lieutenant, you can start spawning in helicopters then as well. So there's this ranking system. And I just really enjoy early game doing like PvE stuff. So I'll wander off. Everybody else will be going off towards where the main enemies are and the main capture points are, but there's normally a major capture point that's away, which is in the wrong direction, and I'll slowly capture bases towards that, nice and carefully, because I'm normally by myself, or maybe someone will help, and I've got to shoot a lot of NPCs, and then I'll build a little base where I can build my own armory and build my own vehicle depot. I'll be driving backwards forwards in jeeps or in trucks to get supplies, because there's supply depots dotted around the island, and I'll be feeding up a base so that I can then get my proper loadouts. I'll have my sniper rifle, I'll have a radio backpack so I can respawn in. Then I'll go and try and take the major base, often by myself, and I have to do it really slowly and carefully, picking off the enemies one by one, and then they'll die, so I've got to spawn back in, use my radio backpack. I then capture that area, and that's really cool, so I've captured a major area by myself, and maybe I'll build some stuff there so people can spawn in. But often by then I'm then a sergeant, which means that I can then join the main fight, but I can be really helpful, and I can build things like barracks, the living quarters, to spawn in NPCs, or I can spawn in helicopters and start fighting other players that way. And it's really good fun. It's really good fun. And one of the things to remember is it's not always about winning or losing. It's just the experience of playing. In fact, these games go on for so long. If you have two well-matched teams, there can be a little bit of a status quo you get to, where bases will just be swapping backwards and forwards, and the game can't really progress because everybody's too good at defending and attacking. I think that might be the fact that it's only 40 players on official servers, but even then you can still have fun doing what you're doing. And I've got to mention as well the NPC AIs with RPG. So the NPC AIs are dangerous when there's lots of them. And they're dangerous when they're up close. They can kill you very, very quickly with their automatic weapons. And if there's a few of them firing at you, generally they're not very accurate. But if you're by yourself, they can be dangerous and they will take you out. But where they are deadly is the teams that have RPGs. And so you'll be driving along in your Jeep or your truck, and you'll see a roadblock, and it'll be manned by NPCs, and then you have them patrolling around the island as well. They're wandering around, and so you'll go cross country to get around them, and one of them will have an RPG, and they'll fire it at you. Really, and it can kill you, but that's fun. And you can spawn. I remember I was playing the other day, and I spawned in some NPCs to defend a base. And I like using the anti-tank NPCs because they have RPGs or they have laws. And then an enemy helicopter came over the hill. I don't think it was going to land where I was, but it was just flying past. And the AI were firing their RPGs at a helicopter. It was absolutely brilliant. Really, really good fun. So as I say, so you can play solo lone wolf. I could play with a friendly squad. I could play with teammates, all that sort of stuff. You can do the slow, quiet supply runs, which is really where it's casual, and then you can have high octane firefights with real players, or they do get difficult with NPCs as well. And again, it's not always about winning, it's just about having a fun, great experience. So I've got to say that now Arma Reforger in the conflict mode, it's one of my favourite multiplayer games to play. It's up in the top 5 at the moment of games I like to play, and I would consider my top 5 games with things like I kind of leave Call of Duty out of this because it changes so much year to year, but you've got like DayZ, Battlefield 1, PUBG, and Arma 3 as well. I really like playing Prairie Fire and Spearhead Arma 3. So, my advice would be, if you watch the game footage for Arma Reforger and you like what you see, just remember you're going to need some patience to learn the game mechanics and the fact that it's slower than other shooters. But buy it now. I think 2025 is going to be an amazing year for Arma Reforger. There's more and more stuff going to be added that's going to make it more and more fun, and it's going to be a fantastic ride. Highly recommended. Love Arma Reforger. can't wait to go and play some more this afternoon as well. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully you find this video useful. If you have, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. And of course, I'll see you again soon.